You already have 4 Claude Skills switched on right now. You did not install them. You have probably never opened the menu they live in, and they have been quietly doing work for you every time you asked for a spreadsheet. So let's start there, because it tells you what these things actually are. A Claude Skill is a folder. Inside that folder is one file. That file tells Claude how to do a specific job the way you want it done, and Claude goes and reads it on its own at the moment it becomes useful. That is the whole concept. Everything else in this video is detail. Here is why the detail matters. There are 106 of these files on this laptop. Claude reads exactly one line from each of them before deciding which to open. One line. And that single line is the difference between a skill that fires every time and a skill you built on a Sunday afternoon that has never once run. By the end of this, you will know what a skill is, what it is made of, which ones you already own, how to build your own from scratch, why yours will not fire when you expect it to, and how to check whether the thing you made is any good. There are 8 chapters, and each one is short. One promise about the sourcing, because this topic is full of confident nonsense. Every claim in here was read off Anthropic's live documentation this morning. In 2 places, their own pages disagree with each other. And when we get there, I will show you both and tell you honestly that nobody can settle it from the outside. Question for you. If a skill is just a file sitting on a computer, how does Claude know it is there? And how does it know when to open it? Walk into a workshop with me. Along one wall, there is a shelf of manuals. Dozens of them, spines facing out, each spine printed with the name of a job and a one-line description of when you would need it. Fixing the boiler. Servicing the van. Closing up for winter. Nobody reads the shelf. You read the spines. And the moment a job walks in the door, you run your eye along those labels, you find the one that matches, and you pull down that one manual and open it. That shelf is how Claude handles skills, and the match is exact. When Claude starts up, it reads the name and the description off every single skill you have. That is it. Roughly 100 words each, just the spines. Then a job arrives, you ask for something, and Claude looks for a spine that matches. When one does, it opens that manual and reads the whole thing. If the job turns out to need the appendix at the back, it goes and gets the appendix too, and only then. The official name for that is progressive disclosure, and the reason it exists is space. Claude has a limited amount of room to hold things in its head at once. Loading 106 complete manuals would fill that room with instructions for jobs nobody asked about. Loading 106 spines costs almost nothing. So now the anatomy, and it is small. A skill is a folder. The folder has a name, in lowercase, with hyphens instead of spaces. Inside it, one file called SKILL.md. That file is required, and it is the only thing that is required. The file has 2 parts. At the top, between 2 lines of dashes, 2 pieces of information, the name and the description. That is your spine. Underneath, in plain English, the actual instructions. Do this, then this, here is what good looks like, here is the format I want. Optionally, 3 folders alongside it. A references folder for the long detail. An assets folder for templates, logos, that sort of thing. A scripts folder for actual working code, if the job needs it. Which brings us to the one idea this whole video hangs on. So here it is with a name on it. The spine test. Claude never sees your instructions until it has already decided to open the file. The only thing it uses to decide is that description. So the question you have to be able to answer about your own skill is this. Would a stranger, reading nothing but that one line, know exactly when to pull this manual down? Hold on to that. It comes back twice. Right, the question everybody actually types. Skills sound suspiciously like prompts. Are they the same thing wearing a hat? No, and the difference is worth 2 minutes because it is the difference between something you do and something you own. A prompt is a thing you say. You type it, it lands, it does its job, and when you close the chat it is gone. Every time you want that behavior again, you say it again. A skill lives on your machine as a file. It comes back on its own, in every conversation, for as long as it is switched on. 3 things make it a genuinely different animal. It sits in a folder on your machine as a file you own. Claude picks it up by matching a label, so you never have to remember it exists. And it can carry working code, which a sentence typed into a chat box can never do. Now, for other things get confused with skills constantly, and Anthropic publishes a table that sorts them out. Here it is in plain language. A project is static background knowledge, always loaded, in specific chats. Everything in there is in the room the whole time. Custom instructions are broad preferences applied to all your conversations. Always speak plainly. Never use bullet points. Connectors, the ones built on MCP, connect Claude to outside services. Your Google Drive, your Notion, your calendar. Plugins are shareable packages that bundle skills, connectors, commands, and agents together into one thing you install in a click. And a skill is a task-specific procedure that loads dynamically. It shows up for its job, and it stays out of the way the rest of the time. Quick one from the memory chapter, and if you watched it, this is a freebie. We talked about a file called Claude.md that holds your rules, and it loads at the start of every session. So here's the test. You have written 6 paragraphs in there explaining, step by step, how to build one of your client reports. Should that stay where it is? Move it into a skill. And here is why, in Anthropic's own words. Make a skill when a section of your rules file has grown from a fact into a procedure. The reason is cost. Your rules file loads every single time. So those 6 paragraphs are in the room whether you are building a report or asking what day it is. Move them to a skill, and they cost you nothing until the day you need a report. Facts and rules stay in the rules file. Procedures move to the shelf. So where is this menu, and what is already sitting in it? Open Claude in your browser or on your desktop, and look for Customize, then Skills. Depending on where you are, it might say Capabilities instead. When you get there, you will find a list with toggles, and 4 of them are already on. Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, PDFs. Those are made by Anthropic and they ship with the product. And the thing worth knowing is written right there in the Help Center. Claude will use these automatically when relevant, and you do not need to explicitly invoke them. So every time you have asked for a spreadsheet and got back something with real working formulas in it, a skill did that. You have been using this feature for months without the word. Now the plans, and this is the first place the documentation argues with itself. The developer docs say skills are available on Pro, Max, Team, and Enterprise. The Help Center says Free, Pro, Max, Team, and Enterprise. A third page says All Paid Plans. 3 answers, same website, this morning. I'm not going to pretend I can settle that from out here. What I can tell you is that the Help Center is the page most likely to be current, and that the only answer that matters is whether the toggle is sitting there in your own customized menu. Go and look. That takes 8 seconds, and it beats any confident guess. One requirement that every version of the page agrees on. Skills need code execution turned on in your settings. If your list is empty, check that switch first. Want more skills than the 4 you have? Same menu. Hit the plus, choose Browse Skills. That opens a directory with 3 tabs, skills, connectors, and plugins, and installing one is a single button. One catch worth knowing before you go shopping. Skills you install from that directory are view only. You can run them, you cannot open them up and change them. And if you use Claude Code, everything above works slightly differently, and there is one trap I want to save you from. In Claude Code, your personal skills live in a hidden folder called .claude in your skills folder, and they work across every project on your machine. You type a / and the skills name to run one on purpose, or you let Claude find it. It ships with a set already built in, things like /debug and /code review. Here is the trap. Cowork does not read that folder. Cowork loads the skills that are enabled on your Claude.ai account, and it syncs them when the session starts. So if you spent an evening building a beautiful skill in Claude Code, then opened Cowork and asked for it, Cowork has genuinely never heard of it. They are 2 separate shelves, and both of them are working exactly as designed. Add it in Customize, and it turns up. Time to make one. We will build the single most useful first skill for a person running a business, which is a brand guideline skill, so that everything Claude makes for you comes out in your colors, your fonts, and your voice without being asked. Make a folder. Call it Brand Guidelines, all lowercase, hyphen in the middle. The naming rules are strict and they will reject you silently, so here they are. Lowercase letters, numbers, and hyphens only. 64 characters maximum. It cannot start or end with a hyphen, and it cannot have 2 hyphens in a row. It has to match the folder name exactly, and it cannot contain the words Claude or Anthropic, which are reserved. A style tip from the authoring guide, worth taking. Name skills after the activity, in the ing form. Processing invoices. Writing proposals. Analyzing spreadsheets. It reads better on a shelf, and it makes the spine easier to scan. Inside the folder, one file. SKILL.md. At the very top, 3 dashes on their own line. Then name, brand guidelines. Then description, and now we are at the spine test, so slow down here. There is a formula, and it has 2 halves. What this does, and when to use it. A bad description reads, helps with documents. Useless. It matches everything and therefore nothing. A good one reads, applies our brand colors, fonts and logo rules to presentations, documents, and marketing materials. Use when creating slides, client-facing documents, or anything with our name on it. See both halves. What it does, then the trigger words a real person would actually say. That second half is what Claude is scanning for. 2 rules on top of that. Write it in the third person. The word you want is applies, and the version to avoid is I can help you apply, because that line gets dropped into Claude's own instructions, and a wobbly point of view genuinely confuses the matching. And watch the length. The specification allows 1,000 characters, while anything you upload to Claude.ai gets cut at 200. Write for 200, and you are safe everywhere. Then 3 more dashes, and underneath, your actual instructions in plain English. Your hex codes, your fonts and sizes, where the logo goes, and how much space it needs. When to apply all this. 2 limits on the body. Keep it under 500 lines. And keep it tight, because once a skill opens, its contents stay in the conversation, so every line you write is a cost that repeats. State what to do. Skip the essay about why. The authoring guide has one idea I want you to steal, and it is the best thing in there. They call it degrees of freedom, and the picture is a robot walking a path. Sometimes the robot is crossing a narrow bridge with a drop on both sides. One way forward, and a wrong step is expensive. There you write exact instructions. Run precisely this. Do not add anything. Sometimes the robot is walking across an open field. Lots of routes, no hazards. There you give a direction and let it find its way, because pinning it down just makes it worse. Brand guidelines are an open field. A step-by-step process where getting the order wrong causes real damage is a narrow bridge. Match your writing to the terrain. Last piece, getting the file into Claude. You zip the folder and upload it under Customize, Skills, plus, Create Skill, Upload a Skill. And there is one packaging mistake that catches almost everybody the first time. The folder has to be inside the zip, with your files inside the folder. If you select SKILL.md on its own and zip that, you get a zip with a loose file rattling around in it, and Claude will refuse it. Select the folder itself, and zip the folder. Everything in the last chapter was the manual route, and it is worth understanding once. Now here are 2 ways to skip most of it. Shortcut 1. Ask Claude to write the skill. This works far better than it has any right to, and the documentation says why in a line I did not expect to find. Claude understands the skill format natively, so you do not need any special prompt or setup. Just ask. The workflow they recommend goes like this, and it is the right way round. Do the job normally first, with Claude, in an ordinary conversation. While you work, notice what you keep having to explain. Then, at the end, say, turn what we just did into a skill, including the bits I had to keep repeating. It writes the file, correctly formatted, first time. Then read what it gives you and cut. It will over-explain. Deleting is much easier than drafting. Shortcut 2, and this one genuinely made me stop. You can record a skill. You open Co-work, hit the plus button, choose Record a Skill, and start recording. Then you just do the task. Normally, the way you always do it, clicking around like a human being. When you are finished, you hit Done, and Claude watches what you did and proposes a skill built from it. You press Save. A recording runs for about 10 minutes, so it suits one contained job you can walk through in one go. Being straight with you on 2 things. The documented flow names Claude for Mac, and this is a Windows machine, so I have not run it myself, and I am not going to tell you it definitely works on yours. Look for Record a Skill on the plus button, and you will know in 5 seconds. And second, a recording gives you a first draft. You will still want to open it and fix the spine. Quick test before we move on. You have just built a skill, and Claude used it on your very next message. Does that mean the skill is working? No. That tells you Claude found it. It tells you nothing about whether it did what you wanted. Those are two separate questions with two separate answers, and mixing them up is the reason people tinker with the same skill for a month. Which is the next chapter. Here is the moment that comes for everybody. You built the skill, you ask for the thing, and Claude answers like the file does not exist. For checks, in order, and the first one solves most cases. 1. Read your description again and ask whether it contains the words you would naturally use. You wrote applies corporate identity standards. You asked for a deck in our colors. Those two lines do not touch. Claude was scanning for words you never wrote. 2. Ask Claude directly, what skills are available? If yours is missing from that list, you have an installation problem, so go back to the menu and check it actually landed. 3. Rephrase your request closer to the description, just to confirm the match is the problem. 4. Run it by name, with a slash, to prove the skill itself works. And a silent failure worth knowing about. If the top section of your file is malformed, a stray quote mark, a bad indent, Claude Code loads the instructions with no label attached. Running it by name still works perfectly, which is why people miss this for weeks, and Claude has nothing to match against. So it never fires on its own. If it works when you name it and never fires by itself, go and look at those top 3 lines. Now the one almost nobody knows, and it is the reason for that number at the start. Claude keeps a listing of every skill's name and description. That listing has a size limit, roughly 1% of everything Claude can hold. Once you have enough skills, the listing overflows. And here is what happens next, quoting the documentation directly. It shortens descriptions to fit, which can strip the keywords Claude needs to match your request. So look at what that actually means. Your skills all stay switched on. Their names all stay in the list. The descriptions get trimmed quietly underneath, which cuts away the exact half that makes matching work. And it starts with the skills you use least, so the ones you reach for daily keep their full text while everything else slowly goes mute. 106 skills on this machine. That is comfortably inside the range where this happens. There is a command that shows you the damage. Type /doctor and it estimates what your listing is costing and which skills are the biggest contributors. If you are past 30 or 40 skills, run it. And there is a fix that costs nothing. Front-load the description. Put the most important use case in the first few words, so that when the trimming comes, the part that survives is the part that matches. Which leaves the last question, and it is the one that keeps people tinkering forever. How do you know if the thing you built is actually any good? Almost everyone does this the same way. Run the skill. Look at the output. Feels a bit off. Edit the instructions. Run it again, on a different request. Better? Worse? Genuinely impossible to say, because both the input and the output changed at the same time. So you go round again. And again. The way out is borrowed from how AI labs actually measure things, and it takes about 20 minutes. Freeze 3 real inputs. Actual requests, the kind you really send, written down and never changed again. Write down what good means in plain checkable lines. The deck uses the right hex codes. The heading font is correct. No invented statistics. 5 or 6 lines, each one a yes or a no. Then run all 3 inputs twice. Once with your skill switched on, once with it off. Use a fresh chat each time, because a conversation that already knows what you want will hide every gap in your written instructions. Now score both against your list. Suddenly a tweak either raises the score or it does not, and you stop after 2 rounds instead of 20. There is a plugin called Skill Creator that automates the whole loop, including a blind comparison between 2 versions of the same skill, and being honest about the limitation. There is no built-in way to run these tests, so you are building your own little scoring sheet. It is still 20 minutes against a month of guessing. Short chapter, and it matters more than its length. Skills are files full of instructions that Claude will follow. That is the whole point of them, and it is also the risk. The Help Center puts it plainly. Only install skills from trusted sources. And if it is a source you are unsure about, review it before you enable it, starting by reading the files inside. 2 named risks. Prompt injection, where instructions hidden in the skill tell Claude to do something you never asked for. And data exfiltration, where something in the package quietly sends your information somewhere. There is a sharper version of this for anyone using Claude Code. A skill can carry a setting that grants itself permission to use tools without asking you each time. So when you download somebody's project and it comes with skills inside, you are trusting those files the moment you trust the folder. The documentation says it directly. Review project skills before trusting a repository, because a skill can grant itself broad tool access. My own rule, which you are welcome to take. Claude reads the skill first and tells me what is in it, in plain English, including anything it would not do itself. Then I run the install by hand. A machine that reads faster than me does the reading, and the decision stays mine. None of this means be frightened of skills. The 4 that came with your account are made by Anthropic. The directory inside Claude is curated. The caution is for the link somebody sends you. So, a skill is a folder with one file in it, and that file teaches Claude how you want a job done. Claude reads the spines. Name and description at startup, the full manual once a job matches, the appendix only if the job needs it. The description is the entire game, what it does, and when to use it, in the words a real person would say. You already own 4. They are in Customize, under Skills. You can write one by hand. Ask Claude to write it for you, or record yourself doing the job and let Claude watch. When it will not fire, the description is the suspect nearly every time. And when you want to know whether it is any good, freeze 3 inputs, write down what good means, and score it. Stop eyeballing. Reach for a skill the moment you catch yourself explaining the same process to Claude for the 3rd time. That 3rd time is the signal. Everything before that was you working out how you wanted it done, and the 3rd repeat means you have finished working it out and started wasting it. Write it down once, put it on the shelf, and let it come and find you.